Hey, Stand Up Memories has a new sponsor.
Don't forget the discount.
It's the Cycling Frog, and they make seltzer and iced tea lemonade that has THC and CBD in it, and it's all the buzz without alcohol. How cool is that?
And it's delicious, and you get 20% off if you use the discount code
SUM20.
SUM20.
SUM, which stands for Stand Up Memories, 20% off, SUM20, and get your Cycling Frog at cyclingfrog.com.
Cyclingfrog.com.
Another episode. Here we are. Stand
I
Up.
think Steve Mittleman
darn.
returns. Sounds like a horror movie.
I know.
And stay tuned, it could be.
Where's my chin?
This is Stand Up
Where's
Memories.
my chin?
That is Jackie Martling, who interrupted me. That is our special guest, Steve Mittleman. I'm Peter Bales.
This is unbelievable.
And the title Steve Mittleman Returns is appropriate because we've done Zoom with you from
Yes.
California. You live in the desert in a trailer, apparently.
I'm in a humor desert, actually. Not humid, but humor desert.
Humor desert.
I
Yes,
totally
right.
understand that. I work with him.
That's right.
But he saw the studio, and he just had to see it in
He
person.
wanted to see it in
I
person.
know.
And
I flew in just for to see it in
Now,
person.
we go back to starting out in comedy with Steve Mittleman, and yes, there was a 70s feel to that time.
Oh, I love it. It was
and
genius.
the 80s, and
We were so. Did we know we were that lucky then?
I
You
don't.
know what?
I don't know.
think we
Good-
did. You know, I was just mentioning Rick Overton. One of the first things he said to me, he said, "Do you realize in New York City there are less comedians than there are brain surgeons?" Which I don't know if he did any research, but that was when, now
Yeah.
there's 40,000.
Yeah.
Somebody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to be a
comics.
comedian,
Yeah.
I always say, though, when we started, being a stand-up comedian was literally like being a fighter pilot, and that's
Yeah.
how women looked at it.
Yeah, but the truth is, I didn't have any
Well,
direction.
for me, that's how women looked at it. You had
I didn't
you
have
had a
any
more difficult time.
There was no there's no direction of what would I do in life other than I think we talked about this
Yes.
during lunch.
Yes.
There's nothing. What I have no idea what I would have done.
There was no second choice.
No, there wasn't, and there were no gigs even. We were like there was a Playboy clubs and they were going down.
They were going down.
And then we had Mustache Pete's.
Now,
that was
but
it.
you honestly
That was the first out-of-town gig. I
Yeah.
actually got that gig
Yeah.
handed to me. I booked it because Ron Richards had
Yeah.
more than one
We
show
were- we
a
were-
week, and he only had one amplifier. He
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
"Hey, I heard you have an amplifier. Do you want to take
That's
over
how you got the
Mustache
gig.
Pete's?"
That's so funny.
And when comics were starting out, late
Yeah.
70s, early 80s, Mustache Pete's was in
was the only
Mustache
gig.
Pete's
Yeah.
was in New Jersey. The pay was $40
Yeah.
and a cheeseburger, and I counted the cheeseburger as part of my pay, and I needed
That's right.
that cheeseburger.
I did a gig once where they usually only let you eat, depending on where you were on the show, either on the left side of the menu, which was appetizers. But one day I was doing so well, the guy said you could eat from the right side of the menu.
Which in those days, that was
it's
a
like
raise.
a big deal.
That
Yeah.
was a bump.
I ate, maybe I mentioned this on the Zoom, but I ate a burger once or twice a night. If I knew the cook in any of the clubs in New York, they whip you up a burger. And if Al from Catch was in a great mood, he'd go, shrimp scampi.
And that
Shrimp
was
scampi.
that
That
was
was like,
in-
oh my God.
That was
I got the shrimp
imprinted
scampi.
on our minds. I was at a fancy wedding 5 years after that.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, and a comic at this fancy wedding, actually, I swear part of him was serious.
Yeah.
He turned to me and said, "What can the comics have?"
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean,
I once got paid in chicken wings. Have all the chicken wings you want.
Did you ever work Club A?
I know the
Club
name.
A was this big 700-seat mafia house.
Yeah.
And Old Man Benet was great. And like if I had a really, really good show, he'd come over and say, "You can have the steak."
You
They had steak and they had burgers.
Oh my God!
You can
It's
have
like
the
wow.
steak,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah.
There was
like,
a
oh,
comic.
God,
That was the
steak.
equivalent of "We're not going to kill you."
Yeah, I know.
There is do you know this
Yeah.
story? There is a comic. I happened to run into him last night.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy. He was on our show.
It sounds like a Bob Hope. I ran into him
I
last
ran into
night.
a big guy.
Just the other day.
He was on
Yeah.
our show. His name is Harry Friedman.
I know Harry. Yeah,
And
sure.
it was a Jerry Stanley gig.
Yeah.
And he
Not last night.
I ran into him last night.
Oh, don't scare
At
me.
Governor's.
Don't
Spit take. I'm a
scare
spit
At
take.
Governor's.
I was right here.
I ran into
I already
him
spilled at lunch.
at Governor's Comedy Shop last
Yeah.
night. They would still call it Governor's Comedy Shop. That's the original name.
Yeah.
Last night, and his name is Harry Friedman. He was on our show. We had a lot of fun. And he was on one of those one-nighters in New Jersey where you could only have a certain type of food.
Yeah.
He ordered steak and got into an argument with the owner of the
Yeah.
place about how he should be able to have steak. And the owner actually said, "Enough! Harry, you are not a steak act."
That's great. That's great.
I've heard that.
I got a Mustache Pete's thing for you. First of all, I remember seeing Tubby Boots
Tubby
and Mustache Pete's, and that was a guy who had tassels on his nipples. Anyway,
What do you weigh, like 400 or something like
yeah, I know.
Wait,
he,
wait, wait,
He got
did
to
you-
eat whatever he wanted, actually.
You ever seen me without my shirt on?
Well, yeah.
Nobody's business.
So,
Go ahead.
Mustache Pete's, Mark Schiff and I, we had worked together enough. We were very close friends. And on the way there, we said, I don't know who said it, but you'll do my act, I'll do your act. I did his act, I killed, he did my act and bombed. And that-
So how do you register that in your memories?
The message was bad. It was really bad. His was more universal than mine. Actually, that was the
I don't
only.
think you can spin that any other way.
Do you know how long ago that was? I remember the first night that I
Yeah.
booked Mustache Pete's, and I was there setting up my thing.
Yeah.
And there was a bar, a television over the bar, and I said,
Yeah.
"What's that show?" I said, "It's something new they're trying in this area
Yeah.
to break in." It was MTV.
Oh my God!
And that area of Jersey was one of the test markets.
Oh, that's great.
Oh yeah, they're going to play music and
Yeah.
and have videos.
So
with it.
Rascals, West Orange. Okay, so Billy Reback is still a very close friend of mine. So he was the headliner, and he was following Adrian Tolsch, and I really wish I had seen Bill the other day. But okay, so.
Now,
Adrian Tolsch.
Bill Sheft was
Bill
just
Sheft.
on our podcast. You can see our past podcast. Bill Sheft,
He was
writer
live?
for Letterman and the
Yeah.
husband of this wonderful, nice
Yeah.
comedian named Adrian
Who was a
Tolsch.
regular host, regular
Catch.
MC at Catch.
Catch.
And
So
all-
Catch being Catch a Rising Star. You
Yeah.
know, we can't use.
So it's reminded me with the, Mustache Pete's. So Billy's upstairs eating before he goes on. He's, middle act's up. He's not doing well. He cuts out. Adrian goes on stage, and Billy's scarfing down his food. As he knows, time is short, and she decides to bring him up like really fast. You had to go downstairs from the bar
Right.
to the showroom. He tumbles down the stairs, and I forget the owner's name. They were brothers.
The Magnuson brothers.
Yeah, yeah,
That was
yeah.
a nasty. That was a
That was a
nasty.
those are
Nasty
long
spill.
stairs.
He fell down. Yeah. See, he falls down the stairs. He looks like Beetle Bailey with Sarge, right? And one of the Magnuson brothers looks. He discovers him. He goes, "Thank God, I thought it was a customer."
I love that.
So that's the comics life.
Why
you know?
don't we
Yeah.
bestow that line to Danny? Remember Danny?
Danny McKenna.
the redheaded guy that kind of ran the place.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
going to say, when I tell that story, I'm going to
You
say,
gotta-
I bet you and I have something in common because I was the first headliner at Rascals. I
In
was
the
first
history of the club?
I believe so. Yeah. The first headliner at some of the Funny Bones, a few of them around. But I bet you, because of our at the time trajectory of where we were,
right.
you were probably opening clubs like that, like I was opening clubs like that. I bet you did a few of those.
I didn't have that status, but for the
Yeah.
most part, I was creating shows on Long Island. And when those things started to happen, I would get booked at the Funny Bone in Pittsburgh.
Oh,
and
I see.
and
Residually,
Zanies,
like,
but I wouldn't be the first guy they called. But
Yeah.
that was the Wild West. That was
Yes,
where
it was.
you'd go into a new town, and they'd have
You're educated.
3 comics
Yeah.
from New York or whatever, and then they eventually discovered, wow, we can have like a
Yeah.
local disc jockey host the show
yeah.
and save a few bucks, and
Yeah.
then blah, blah, blah. But the way it was happening is you'd go into a new town, and you'd meet a waitress, and they were so enamored. It was so
Yeah, yeah,
easy.
yeah.
But then if you were the 5th or 6th or 8th week in,
It was like, no,
I
forget it.
distinctly remember this waitress saying, "You're a very nice guy, but I have a thing going with Bobby Collins." And how do you say lady?
That's funny.
The second he got in
That's
his car,
funny.
he forgot you existed.
All
you
right.
know?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm getting married to
Yeah,
Bobby.
I know.
Now,
Yeah.
when you were at a club that had not been open that long, you
Yeah.
could tell by the fact that the waitresses were still being nice to the comedians.
Yeah.
Right.
I once had a thing, and this really happened. Maybe I mentioned it, forgive my memory, but this really happened. I was working somewhere, saw this really cute service person, although we gave away the punchline already. But, I'm kind of flirted with her. I was sitting, I was attending, I forget what it was, and I go, "Oh, you're really cute." And she looked at me, she goes, "I'm your waitress." And it took the air out of it because we said the word waitress a few times, but it was like, it's like, hey, don't kid yourself, I'm just your waitress. I'm not don't flirt
Right,
with
being
me.
nice.
Yeah, she's just being nice. I'm
That
your
was
waitress.
the joke that was going around in
Yeah.
the early '80s was how do you give a comedian an erection? You put on a
Yeah.
now I'm old.
How do you
What does a waitress wear?
an apron?
Apron, yeah.
Put on an apron.
Yeah.
Boy,
yeah.
I did a good job with that.
What do you mean?
They were like,
how
what?
could you not be able to pull up the
There's a
word
million
apron?
drummer jokes like that. Drummers, how do you.
You know what? I'm sick-
Apron? I couldn't remember. Apron Bales?
give yourself a break. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you old enough that's happening to you where you go to pull up a word?
You kidding? Oh, yeah. I have my name on this list.
Yeah.
I got you.
A couple of podcasts ago,
Yeah.
Jackie went to say Paul McCartney, and it came out Cher. It was so embarrassing.
You do notice like to work with him?
I know.
But I want to say something, and I just had
Make it funnier than the last one.
I just had an epiphany.
Yeah.
I think
Now that's a good word.
Now,
you know what
now
would be great on
that's
this
a word.
podcast? A longtime comedy club waitress with all the stories waitresses have about comedians and about audiences.
Yeah.
Because they're in the trenches. The waitresses are working hard. They
But
work really
a
hard.
lot of them still have crabs.
You just really undercut everything I just
you're
said.
I think that's a great idea.
I think
he
it's a
keeps
great
saying it's
idea.
got to be comics.
I
I think booking agents.
Phenomenal.
You know.
Yeah. They all, I still have a story. You listen, if you have, you didn't have Jim Gagin on from Gagin and Fine. Remember Gagin and Fine? Remember Jim Gagin?
I remember the name and I remember working with them, but I didn't know
I
them.
remember doing back to Mustache Pete's. It could have been Mustache Pete's. They all overlapped.
Yeah.
That literally, while they were on stage, a giant jar between them of Goulden's mustard was thrown at their heads, missed them, and hit the wall, broke. It was glass splattered all over, mustard. And 2 minutes later, ketchup. Wham. And
They
that was a
kept
tough
going?
room.
That's
a tough room.
They kept going.
Yeah.
We had
Throw
Bill
the
McCarty.
hot dog next.
We
Yeah.
had Bill McCarty
Nice guy,
on,
Bill.
on the podcast,
Yeah.
and he talked about it was Mustache Pete's when he went into a lot of comics talk about their childhood, going to religion class, and he was doing his Catholic routine, and somebody got worked up and threw a glass that broke the Mustache Pete's
Wow.
glass in the back.
I bet
It's true.
I bet you I told this story on the show before, but I don't care. When we were first starting out, we knew nothing. At least, especially the guys on Long Island, knew nothing. And I got the Mustache Pete's I'm booking Mustache Pete's.
You did?
So no, Ron gave me the show. I don't mean
yeah,
gave
yeah.
me it to work. He
Yeah,
gave
yeah.
me
Yeah.
to promote it and set up
Yeah.
it was my show. I was the producer.
Yeah.
So all the Long Island guys got to work it. And you knew Bob Woods. Big fat Bob Woods.
Oh, yeah.
So he came to work at Mustache Pete's, and we have no awareness of what we're supposed to be doing. And he did impressions, and he did an impression of Phil Rizzuto.
Yeah.
But he forgets that he's in New Jersey. And he
Phil
goes,
Rizzuto's, yeah.
I'm Phil Rizzuto from the Money Store. If you work
Yeah.
or play in New Jersey, holy cow, does it stink in that state. And we're in New Jersey.
No,
so
that was
he
the
didn't get
Detroit thing with Trump the other
Oh,
night.
yeah, it's the same thing.
I've been telling that story ever since then, because that's the exact same thing.
That's funny.
God, next thing you know, every place is going to be like Detroit. You're in Detroit.
I know.
But I got to say this. We
isn't
had
that
fun.
crazy?
The audiences had fun. We got through it all. You
Yeah.
ever work a ground round?
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Peanuts and popcorn on the tables. They throw that stuff.
Yeah, they would, yeah. It
was the Wild West. It really was.
Jerry Stanley and Palazzo.
So Ron Richards, back to Ron Richards. Rich Hall and I we would rent rooms from him, $40 a month. It was like, well, great. Oh, it was in Passaic, I think it was. And it was his parents' home, but they gave him the home, And we used to eat out on the way home at like 2 a.m. And I literally, because I didn't know any better, I was so young, and I would say I'll have 2 eggs over easy. Oh, I would use my hand like over easy. I didn't just say over easy because I was like, oh, I hope they don't screw it up. I go like that, right? So for 20 years, I knew Ron Richards after that, and he would just go, I would see him. He would just go, yeah, that was it. Over easy.
I got such a kick out of that guy.
He's a funny guy.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Because so many of the places, the audiences would be horrible because they didn't know they were supposed to laugh out loud or be so sparse.
Yeah.
Do you remember he used to do a character named Stanley?
I kind of remember
I
that.
remember it.
He would sit and he'd come and sit he was a tall guy and he'd sit very obviously in the front, and he'd have his glasses on crooked.
Yeah.
And the comics they're bombing because nobody's laughing. And what's your name? And, I'm Stanley. And what do? I sell ID bracelets that say Bob. Well, Stanley, what do you do if your name's not Bob? Don't buy one from me. And it was just hysterical.
I remember
and
that.
And the comics would be rolling,
That's
and
funny.
he never broke character,
That's
and the guy on
funny.
stage, and the people would be standing there like,
he was.
are you married, Bob? Yeah. Where's your wife? She's in the car.
Yeah.
She's in the car. Why is she in the car? Well, we went to dinner, and she was drinking one of those drinks, and she got one of those little fucking umbrellas caught in her throat. It's like,
I
Oh
used
my
to work.
God.
I was hosting. We would set Stanley up. He'd sit right down front.
That's great.
What did you used to do for a living, Stanley? He goes, I worked in an automobile factory. I go, wow, what'd you do? I screwed the tip onto the antennas.
But that's like Sidney Spritzer with Milton Berle had a real guy, Sidney Spritzer, hired like he would be in the balcony. Do you remember like the Milton Berle show that was on? I don't want to block the.
It's a million years ago.
Yeah, the one on channel. It was on ABC, I believe. And there would be a balcony, and there was Sidney Spritzer on the balcony.
I never heard that name before. That's great.
great
That's like
name.
Rodney's having Joe Answer saying, so what do you do for a living?
I know.
Remember that?
Now where did Rodney? You would know better than I do, but I was friendly with Rodney for sure. But where did Rodney either got his name from? Joantis or
this has been a bone of contention for everybody for a million years.
Yeah.
There was an interview with Johnny Carson in Playboy. Remember the Playboy interviews? And somehow his name came up, and he said Rodney Dangerfield's name came from an old Jack Benny routine.
Wow.
Where he's like, Rochester, who have we got coming to my party?
Rodney.
Well, Mr. Benny, Clark Gable and his wife, they canceled. Yeah, and what about Fred Astaire? Fred Astaire and his wife, they canceled too. And he went through a litany of like 5 different famous people. They canceled. Well, then Rochester, who's coming? And
Yeah,
he said,
yeah.
Rodney Dangerfield.
Really?
Now, I don't know.
That's how
I
it-
just remember reading that. And then somebody else,
Wow.
he was in the tin.
Well, Johnny
tin-
would know.
He was in the tin, tin men, the guys that
Yeah, sure, yeah.
They would go door to him and Ansis and whoever they go door to door.
They were, yeah.
Wearing a
Aluminum siding.
and they would wear a thing saying they were a veteran and sell siding and they were
Yeah.
veterans. So
Yeah,
people
yeah.
would buy from them and give them the down payment and they'd disappear. And they ripped
Ooh,
off
wow.
so many people.
Yeah, yeah.
And according to somebody, he changed his name because he had to.
Wow.
That he was
That's
Jack,
crazy.
you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that
But all these things, nobody can document anything.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Back to Ron Richards. That's great. I mean, I didn't know that about Rodney, but so Ron Richards, this one joke I remember, I'm pretty sure it was his. He goes, "Oh boy, I had the worst flight. I was sitting next to a crying baby who smoked."
See, the funniest thing I ever heard him say, Ron Richards said,
Yeah.
you know, I came out of the Improv the other night, and there was a gang of like 15
Yeah.
little Chinese kids.
Yeah.
They were only like 10 or 12 years
Yeah.
old, but they all had knives. And they attacked me and started stabbing me. But you know what's really weird? The next morning, my back pain was gone.
That's great. That's a great
so
joke.
Crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
Of
that's
course, you
tremendous.
have to buy the fact that these kids were stabbing them with knives.
I know,
But
yeah.
you know, you don't let that get in the way of getting to the end.
Yeah, yeah.
And what happened to him? Nobody knows where. Suppose
Where
he's in
is- I-
Seattle somewhere.
Who?
Ron Richards.
Ron
Oh,
Richards?
really? I didn't know that.
You haven't
No,
seen
no,
him in
no,
20
no.
years.
Yeah, Facebook, and then we lost touch.
Oh,
The story I heard about Rich Hall and Ron Richards is they wrote for the Letterman morning show when it first
Oh,
started.
really? Wow.
And they lived in a house, and I actually went there to pick them up for gigs a couple times. And the house had no food, no furniture,
That was
no
Passaic,
anything,
right? Mayak.
but they had 2 Emmys on the mantle. 'Cause the
That's
Letterman
great.
show-
That's good.
That
well
is
deserved.
terrific. Hey, Steve, I want to hear this guy does something. Comedians can branch out. This man is a professional auctioneer, ladies
That's
and
a
gentlemen.
laugh. Let me hear 2 laughs. Do I hear 3? Let's go 4. Standing ovation. Thank you very much.
But you have to learn that. That's like another language.
But you don't
You do,
do the
but
like you're
improv
selling
skills help.
cattle. Not, we,
No,
hey,
I've
who's
done
the-
everything
who's
but
the-
I've everything but cattle and cars,
But I
basically.
mean,
All right,
you
all right.
don't do the rapid talking.
Everything.
Hand me one of those cycling
Yeah.
frog cans. I want. Okay, this is our sponsor. This is a seltzer with
Yeah.
that'll give you a really
You want a
nice
seltzer? You know something? This seltzer has been losing bubbles over the years, and we're raising money to revive the bubbles in the seltzer. 'Cause otherwise, it's going to be a flat.
Give me this.
It's going to be flat.
Hand me this.
So,
Is he
basi-
trying to sell it?
No.
Well, basically,
I
what
want him
wanna
to
get-
auction it off.
I want. We're starting at the $5,000 level. Who would like to give $5,000 to
5,000.
That's 5,000 right there. Would you like to match 5?
I'll go 5,500.
55. I didn't realize this. I was doing a paddle raise, which is just straight cash donation. Okay, we'll go 55 for this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go 6. Who'll go 6? Who'll give me 6? Okay, you got 6. We got a little. That's 65. We got 65 right there in the green room.
65.5.
Oh boy, come on. We don't want a deal here, buddy. But you know, but by the way, you laughed, which is very kind. But when I can blend like I did Thursday night, I did the Harvard Club in New York for an event. And I have to tell you, by the way, it was for coding for young women in Africa, and it changes their life. $1,000, they learn coding. So like 15,000, you got 15 women you supported
That's
their
nice.
life, changed their life. So across
What
the
are you
board,
auctioning off?
well, in that case, a straight cash donation is a paddle raise, a fund in need, a cash call, whatever you want to call it.
So you're basically
Well, yeah, there were
picking
like
pockets
4
for
items.
charity.
Yeah, and I threw in a joke. I said, growing up in New York, it was freezing in the winters, and things have changed. I'm about 70 years old now. When I was a kid, if my mother said put on a second coat, that was coding. Back like 60 years ago. So if I could add humor, which it helps all the comedy timing. It helps it enormously because you're dealing with horrendous things. coding for women, young women, and it changes their life. But childhood cancer and
Anything to lighten it
oh
up
my
this
God!
much.
Yeah,
Yes,
they want
absolutely.
that, and
Absolutely.
it adds skill. Something. It's like they were so happy. I just did a Zoom with them this morning, like sort of an exit interview in a way of the people from last week, and it was in the Harvard Club in New York. It was like, oh my God! It was like and I co-hosted. I was like the only white guy there, and my co-host was a guy named Wilson, a very opposite, like more or less, and his last name was Darko. I was the white guy. I was, and
Jesus.
yeah. So I was, and I made fun of that a little bit. You got to watch that. So you got to have a friend of mine who's black, and once I sent him a text.
It's very, very fine.
Yeah.
The fine line has gotten finer and finer and
Oh my
finer.
God! So even for this joke that I'm going to say, that I've said this to a lot of people, I go, and in fact maybe Les is sitting right there. I go, you are a very, very fine man, and I am but a humble honky. And
humble honky.
A humble honky. And a friend of mine who's black guy, Wally, right? And he goes, we don't like that. Even him about my joke, and he's a fan of mine. Like you can't even say I'm a humble honky to a black guy. So it's,
So I got to tell you my auction joke.
All right.
Yeah, you did an auction or an auction joke?
A guy
Yeah.
has a farm, so he goes to a cow auction. Do you
Yeah.
know about that?
No. Yeah.
He goes and he sees a cow that he thinks he wants to buy. He says the guy
Yeah.
selling the cow.
Yeah.
I gotta make sure that the cow is still up to snuff. And he
Yeah.
says fine. So he reaches under and pulls one of the cow's nipples.
Yeah.
And the cow cuts a fart.
Yeah.
So he reaches under and he pulls on another nipple, and the cow cuts a bigger fart.
Yeah.
And he says to the guy selling the cow, this cow's from Minnesota, isn't it? And the guy says, yeah, how could you tell? He says, my wife is from Minnesota.
All right.
That's great. That's great. I got a joke for you.
All right.
You reminded me of a joke that I wrote that sounds like a classic joke, but it's a joke I wrote that comics like. So I don't know if you're going to like it out there. Okay, so these guys on the road, it's pouring, they crash, they got to get their car fixed. They walk a mile to a farmer's house. They knock on the door. It's like a Polish guy, an Irish guy, a Jewish guy. And the farmer goes, well, you guys can sleep in the barn overnight, then we'll get your car towed, we'll fix your car, standard stuff. So, the lights are out, it's, and 2 hours later, it's pitch black, there's a knock on the door, and it's the Polish guy. And the farmer goes, what do you want? And the Polish guy goes, how come I'm first in this joke?
That's great.
All right,
Anyway, that's up your alley
I
because
was
you
waiting
got
for you to
endless
think.
joke.
The
What am
Polish
I-
guy says, I can't sleep in there. And
Yeah.
The Irish guy comes in
I
there.
know,
and then
it's
the
great.
pig comes in and says, I can't sleep out there.
I know, it's genius.
It's just
Yeah, but it's the Polish
Classic
guy's
stuff.
always third. Always third.
Classic
What
stuff.
am I doing first? Why am I first? Yeah.
Very sophisticated. That's a
Yeah.
comedian's
Meanwhile,
joke.
I didn't get any of these stories.
Well,
but,
we'll do it again.
You will be the first person to come on for a third
how
time.
long? What
We're
time
gonna-
is it?
it went-
Are
it
we in
flew
the
by-
third
it
inning?
flew by.
Is this the third? God.
It flew by. Now we're going to
That's
go out.
crazy.
We just went out strong with Polish jokes.
Yeah.
Which you can't
Yeah.
do, even though I still do.
Ladies and
But let's
gentlemen.
go out holding the three of us. Each take a different flavor.
Okay.
All right, hand me that one.
They don't pay you a lot for this show, but when they do,
you get
it's
a
cycling
nice
frog.
Buzz. You get a nice buzz, and it's
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You're not a cycling frog comedian.
Not me. I know. I didn't earn my cycling.
Not,
Yeah.
This gives you a terrific buzz. There are different strengths,
Yeah.
and
These are great. You sit. I learned
Yeah.
if you drink one while you're watching a movie, it's fine, but then you go to bed and you start getting higher. What you do is you drink one with dinner and then sit down to watch a movie, and if you want, you drink another one, but that way you get your nice buzz, and it's not strong, but it's just, you know what it is? It doesn't change anything. It just turns off the hard drive with all the crap that goes on. You know,
Yeah, for
there's
sure,
always
yeah.
shit going on in your
I
mind.
meditate.
So,
Yeah.
Well,
this is
well, you know, that's
meditation
very
in a
well.
can.
Meditation.
That's meditation in a can, and it's called Cycling Frog. And you go to cyclingfrog.com,
Peter likes anything in the can.
and different flavors, different strengths, very cool stuff. Use our code to get a discount.
We're putting on
and
a
the
second
code is. What's the code?
SUM20.
SUM20.
You get 20% off.
Oh, yeah.
Stand Up Memories, Peter. That's the name of your show.
All right.
SUM20.
SUM20, and you get a discount.
It's
and
cyclingfrog.com. And I will tell you that Cycling Frog
Yeah.
may be one of the toughest things to
Oh,
remember ever.
it's
When I
cannabis.
first got this, I saw it down in the Outer Banks.
Yeah.
And I could not remember. I was like giraffe unicycle. I couldn't. But once you remember, you will love this.
It's Cannabis Company. It's the only seltzer you can smoke.
It's unbelievable. Hard
you
to
know,
keep lit, but worth it.
Yeah.
In a way, that's true.
Yeah.
And there's a picture of a frog on an old 1890s.
Open that up and drink it right now.
I.
You're a woman. You wouldn't drink that.
Oh,
I'll give you $100.
Yeah.
I'll give you $100 to drink
I want
that.
to. I want to go home and watch a movie after.
It's
That's
the
what.
only seltzer that provides its own munchies.
Yeah, see that?
Cycling
You're
Frog.
already you're hungry and
You can
thirsty,
eat the can.
and you're already at.
But this is Oregon-grown hemp. It is state of the art. If you're into the enjoyment and the health benefits of cannabis. So there we are. This has been
Bottom
Stand Up
line,
Memories.
get you stoned. Thank you. A big round of applause for our
Thank you.
guest.
Well,
Thank you,
thank you
Jackie.
very much. What a crowd. What a crowd.
Steve Mittleman,
What a
ladies
crowd.
and gentlemen.
We'll
Great
be
Steve
job,
Mittleman.
Steve.
right after this.
This has been Jackie Martling. I'm Peter Bales.
And this is the winner of the first New York City Laugh-Off.
Yeah.
in
I beat Eddie
1980.
Murphy. He still hates me. Thank you. Good night.
He defeated Eddie Murphy.
Well, you're just a hunky.
That's
All right. See you
I'm a
next
humble
time.
hunky.
Thank you.
Bye. God bless. 2 shows nightly.